But that, in a nutshell, is the Great Sword. Let's see. The Hunter Notes, which is sort of like your in-game instructional guide, breaks down this information per weapon as well. By going into this, you can look at the notes for different things with each weapon. So you see like the overhead slash, again, this is Xbox notation, overhead slash, wide slash, rising slash, tackle. And then, oh yeah, this weapon can guard. If you hold right trigger, you can block with it. Now, unlike some of the other defensive weapons like the lances, the Great Sword's block is not very powerful, and it won't deflect stronger attacks. It'll push you back considerably. It'll eat away at your stamina, which is the yellow meter in the upper left. And you need stamina in order to do things like evade or run. Sprinting also depletes that stamina gauge. Monster Hunter doesn't quite function like the Souls games where attacks deplete your stamina. Instead, it's mostly reserved for defensive moves like your evades and blocking. Another thing that they'll probably talk about in-game at length is something new for Monster Hunter World that wasn't in the previous games, and that's the slinger. If I hit left trigger, this sort of crossbow-looking thing on my arm can be loaded with different types of ammo. I picked up the stones, and by hitting right trigger,
if you're clever, you can use the slinger to distract monsters.
Like the man said, you can load different types of ammo into this thing and shoot them, and it does different things to the environment. It does different things to monsters. It basically functions like a support weapon or tool. It's very useful. If we go over to the wall here, another thing, let's see. By using our slinger, we can also grapple onto these glowing beetles called wedge beetles, which allows us to basically Batman it. And that's also something new to Monster Hunter World that wasn't in the previous ones. The ability to grappling hook around things, which is also pretty fun. It affects mobility and allows you to get around the terrain a lot easier. And it allows you to build that into your fighting too and use the environment to your advantage. Next up, each weapon has its own type of attacks that are done via the air. So if we jump off, draw our weapon, we have the mid-air charge slash. Basically, it's the same type of charge slash in the air, and you can bring it down on enemies when you're jumping at them. The slope area here is also meant to demonstrate the sliding moves.
The weapon is losing its sharpness. Create some distance
Plunging
and use a
thrust.
whetstone.
The way that works is you slide down a hill and kind of catapult off the bottom, and then you drive the blade straight down for basically a concentrated amount of damage. Okay, what our buddy told us regarding sharpness. I guess I'll explain the HUD now that we can actually see everything. The upper left, like I mentioned, the stamina gauge is the yellow. It depletes when you dash or evade. The green is my life, hit points. Lose all that and you get KO'd. The sword icon beneath it is the sharpness of our weapon. Every melee weapon in Monster Hunter has a sharpness gauge, meaning as you use the different types of weapons, they degrade in sharpness, and when the bar empties, it degrades to a lower level, and that causes your weapon to become less effective. Weapons that have lost sharpness have a lower damage modifier, they bounce off of more armored parts, and in general don't function as efficiently. So the way you deal with that is with a whetstone. And in the lower right is my item wheel. By hitting the directional arrows, I can scroll through my list of things here. We've got healing potions, antidotes, rations, raw meat, capture net, all this stuff. Whetstones, which are an infinite item in this, they weren't in previous Monster Hunter games, allow you to sharpen your weapon and restore sharpness. After sharpening it, we see that the gauge has been restored to yellow, which is the max for this particular weapon. By hitting the menu button, it gives us an overview of the weapon we're using. Attack of 384, sharpness that goes up to yellow. No affinity, no element. This is a non-elemental weapon. Our base life is at 100, our base stamina is at 100. Hunter rank, which is based on your quest completion, is 1. Crafting list, which we'll use a little bit later. This allows you to fast create items. And I'm going to have to remember how all of that works, since the last Monster Hunter game that I was playing at length was Generations Ultimate on Switch. And that game, being older than Monster Hunter World, doesn't have a lot of the quality of life improvements they made in this game. So I'm sort of reverted back to the quote-unquote old-school Monster Hunter mind state, and I have to relearn everything that they updated for this one. But that's okay. So that's a pretty basic overview of the gameplay mechanics. Depending on how long this playthrough goes, I may switch to other weapons, at which point I'll come back here to explain how they work. But for now, we'll stick with the longsword. And I guess we can report back to the housekeeper and then go back to the game and proceed forward.
Handlers sort through the Research Commission's leads, and the ones they deem worth our attention become quests.
Hey!
The handler is sort of like our mission support specialist. Provision stockpile. This is where we can buy basic items. Start with 2 grand in Zenny, which is the current default currency for Monster Hunter. Start with not a whole lot in our inventory. Going to the lift here allows us to sort of fast travel between the different points of interest in Astera, the main hub. We could go to the workshop, the waterfall bridge, which is directly above where we're at, or the canteen, which is where we want to go meet the handler.
Hey!
I'll talk a little bit about the handler as we sort of go. Her main personality quirk or gimmick is that she really likes food. She's always eating something. If we go to the canteen, where the buff awesome chef is, this is where we can order food. Let's talk to him first. max gains. So the way food works is by paying money for meals at the canteen, they offer different in-quest buffs to your main character. So if we go through the different options in the menu here, the meat platter gives us a small attack boost, a max health boost, and a max stamina boost. As we proceed through the game, we'll get quests to upgrade the food being used in the different dishes, and these buffs to our character in quest will improve. The health stamina boost is pretty useful earlier on, so what we'll do is we'll go with the meat platter and get an awesome cutscene. Capcom did a good job of making food look delicious in this game. Also, as we upgrade the canteen and the dishes that the chef's able to make, the little cutscene we get when he's cooking with his crew also changes. Alright. First up, by talking to the handler, we get access to the quests, and this is the main gameplay element of Monster Hunter, in that you take quests to go out into the world and either gather something, hunt something, kill something, capture something, and you do this forever, over and over again, proceeding through the different parts of the game. A lot of them are story critical, some of them aren't. In the beginning, we're going to be on a sort of guided path with what the game wants us to do. So what we'll do is take the assigned quest, Jagras of the Ancient Forest. The Jagras are those yellow lizard guys that mobbed us in the beginning. The point of this one is to kill 7 of them. And the Ancient Forest that we walk through to get to the village here is our first locale. If you look at the map on the right, there are a whole bunch of blocked out areas we can't see yet. The different quests in Monster Hunter World take place in the different locales, and Ancient Forest is the first one we get. So, we will go ahead and accept the quest. I think what I will do... trying to look and see if the game is going to put me into a public hub. I don't think it will until I finish this quest. Basically, Monster Hunter World functions like an always online game, and you're always in a different instance with other people if you're just in random public lobbies. Once we get the ability to control that, I'll create a private session while I'm working on this stuff, just to proceed through the game. Later on, I might be able to get some of my friends into a game, and we can explore the co-op side, but until then, we're going to go solo here. Once we made all the preparations, the game had the little tutorial blip that said to make sure you eat something at the canteen. Once you're ready to embark, we grab a lift on one of those wing drakes, and we're off.
Alright, this is our first job. Let's do a quick review of quest rules. Rule number 1, complete the objective to complete the quest. Easy, right? Each quest has an objective. You can't consider the quest done until you complete that objective. Our current objective is to eliminate a specified number of Jagras. Let's check the map. We ran into some Jagras on the way to base. The small monsters, remember? I think we saw them somewhere around here. Want to check it out? Rule number 2. Use the supply box. The commission supplies us with a loadout of certain items for each quest. They're in the supply box over there. Have a look and decide what you should take along. Ready to go. Oh yeah.
Supply items are always dropped in the box at the beginning of a quest. They're basically free, so there's no reason not to use them. Allow you to conserve your resources.
Want to get going? Uh-huh. Be careful.
It looks like we'll be out with the team leader on this particular mission.
Ready your weapon before attacking. Keep in mind that what you're able to do depends on whether or not your weapon is drawn. When you're investigating or gathering items, you'll generally want to keep your weapon sheathed.
I'll mark gathering sites and monster positions on the wildlife map for you.
Another key component of Monster Hunter's gameplay is gathering things in the environment.
Honey and mix it with a potion to make mega potions.
Case in point, as we run through the map, our flies will also highlight things that are gatherable.
Over here.
Including things like slinger ammo.
A pack of Jagras. Those are the monsters we're after.
Let's see how you hold up when you're on your own.
Fortunately, the Jagras are all chumps. They're just little swarmer type enemies.
They're on the run. Don't let them get away. Grab all the monster materials you can. You can use them at the smithy.
Another key component of Monster Hunter is using the bits of things you kill to make better things. Anything that can be killed can be scavenged and farmed for parts, so it's always a good idea to do so when you get a spare minute. As is grabbing bones. You can follow the green markers to link back up with our pal here, the team leader.
Whoops. Use whatever you can.
Flash flies, as the name would suggest, emit a big burst that blinds nearby enemies, stuns them.
Keep it together, okay?
One more left. Take a minute to farm up. The corpses will despawn after about a minute. It's always a good idea to carve what you can before they go away.
Let's head home and report back to the old man.
Looks like our cat took out a couple of them. Once the objective of the mission has been completed, you get a minute countdown before it teleports you back to the town. So you can take the time to just kill or gather whatever's left. you can't be actually hurt by enemies during the countdown. So you can't fail the mission all of a sudden in the post-mission countdown, which is good. Let's see if we can get a couple more cars before... Oh. Picked up some Jagras hide. At the end of each quest, you get the quest rewards, which is a combination of things you got from whatever your target was that you killed, and some things that you've gathered. What we have here are a bunch of basic Jagras parts and some bug and mushroom and bone. In the early game, there's no reason to not take everything. You'll need tons of resources when you're crafting different pieces of equipment, so just take and hoard everything. And your cat companion, Palico, can also gather and scavenge things in the environment as well. Our overall reward is 720 Zenny. In quest, every time you lose life, you get KO'd, or what they call faints. And however many times you faint, assuming you finish the mission, deducts from your overall payout. If you faint 3 times, you lose. That is the game over for the quests. As we proceed, I'm sure I will demonstrate firsthand what that looks like.